The champagne was poured, the guests were laughing, and for a single, calculated moment, billionaire Marcus Thorne believed he held absolute power over every person in the room. Then his maid, Anna, refused to play her part. She looked at the woman he was trying to humiliate, his ex-wife, and said 7 words that shattered his entire world. This is the story of Anna Silva, a domestic worker paid to be invisible in a $20 million penthouse, and the single act of defiance that exposed one of America's most powerful tech investors. What could drive a vulnerable employee to risk everything? And what secret was she protecting that was more valuable than his entire fortune? To understand the bomb Anna was about to detonate, you first have to understand the man who built the fortress around himself. Marcus Thorne wasn't just rich, he was a pioneer. By 30, he'd founded Ether Systems, a tech security firm that became the invisible shield for half the Fortune 500. His fortune was estimated at $2.3 billion. His reputation was built on control of data, control of markets, and most importantly, control of his own narrative. The press called him a visionary, his rivals called him a ghost. You could never pin him down. And then there was Isabella Vance, a philanthropist with old money grace, who Marcus married in a ceremony that made the society pages look tame. For 5 years, they were the golden couple of Silicon Valley and Manhattan charity circles. But that image cracked very publicly 2 years ago. The divorce was not amicable. It was a war fought through teams of lawyers, with Isabella alleging not just infidelity, but financial manipulation, claiming Marcus had hidden assets in offshore labyrinths. He denied it all, of course. The settlement was sealed, but the bitterness was broadcast for all to see. Isabella walked away with a reported $200 million, but Marcus kept his most prized possession, his pristine, untouchable reputation. This is where Anna Silva enters the picture. Anna was 42, an immigrant from Brazil who had been in the United States for 15 years. She was hired not by Marcus, but by a high-end domestic agency to maintain his Fifth Avenue penthouse. Her world was one of silent efficiency, polishing marble, arranging fresh orchids, ensuring the 16,000-square-foot home looked perpetually untouched, as if no one actually lived there. To Marcus, she was part of the scenery. Reliable, invisible, and, he assumed, compliant. Her contract was strict, a non-disclosure agreement that threatened legal ruin if she so much as described the art on the walls. She was paid $28 an hour, a premium rate, but with no health insurance, no sick days, and the constant understanding that her visa status was tied to her employment. She was, in the eyes of the system, the perfect employee, skilled, silent, and supremely vulnerable. For 18 months, this was the rhythm. Anna would arrive at 6 a.m., let herself in with a keycode, and work in the shadow of Marcus's life. She saw the aftermath of his late-night deals, the empty crystal glasses, the crumpled financial papers in the trash. She heard the one-sided, brutal phone calls where he dismantled competitors. She learned the schedule of his current girlfriend, a socialite named Chloe, who left expensive perfume bottles on every surface. And she saw the one thing that seemed to genuinely bother him, any reminder of Isabella. A discarded magazine with Isabella's photo was immediately thrown out. An invitation to a charity event where Isabella was listed as co-chair was ripped in half. Marcus's hatred wasn't a loud rage. It was a cold, persistent frost that settled over the apartment whenever her name was mentioned. Anna cleaned around it, saying nothing. The trigger for everything was the upcoming Harmony Foundation Gala. It was the social event of the season, and Isabella, as the foundation's vice chair, would be center stage. Marcus received his invitation, a thick embossed card, and for days, a new calculated energy buzzed around him. Anna noticed the difference. He was on the phone constantly, not yelling, but speaking in a low, intent tone she'd never heard before. One Tuesday morning, as Anna was dusting the library, Marcus walked in. He didn't usually acknowledge her. Today he stopped. "Anna, a moment." His voice was calm, almost pleasant. It put her on edge immediately. He gestured to a chair. "Sit, please." She did, her cleaning cloth still clutched in her hands. "The gala next week, you'll be working it. The staff coordinator will provide a uniform. It's a simple duty. I'll need you to attend specifically to my table." He paused, his eyes, a pale gray, fixed on her. "Isabella will be at the adjacent table. During the dessert course, you will approach her. You will spill a glass of red wine on her gown. The sentence hung in the air-conditioned silence. Anna felt the room tilt slightly. She knew the rules. She was not paid to have moral objections. She was paid to follow instructions. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice quiet, I'm not sure that is." He cut her off, not with anger, but with the smooth finality of a man who never hears no. "It will be an accident, a clumsy servant. These things happen. You will be flustered. You will apologize profusely. She will be humiliated in front of everyone she cares about. The video will be everywhere by morning." He leaned forward slightly. "For this special service, there will be a bonus, $20,000, cash. And my personal guarantee that your immigration paperwork will be fast-tracked. A path to green card, no more worry." The offer was a sucker punch. $20,000 was more than she made in 4 months. The green card promise was a dream she'd stopped daring to have. It was also a bribe and a threat wrapped together. To refuse was to risk everything: her job, her income, her legal right to stay in the country. Marcus was not asking. He was presenting a fait accompli, a test of her subservience he was utterly confident she would pass. Anna said nothing that day. She simply nodded, a small, tight movement of her head. Marcus took it as agreement, a satisfied smirk touching his lips before he turned and left the room. But in that silence, something in Anna broke. For 15 years, she had swallowed dignity like a bitter pill. She had been yelled at, looked through, treated as less than. She had cleaned the homes of people who debated poverty relief at dinner parties while denying her a living wage. This was different. This was being weaponized. He wasn't just asking her to be invisible. He was asking her to become the instrument of his cruelty, to actively destroy another woman for his petty vengeance. The week leading to the gala was a slow-motion panic attack. Anna went through her duties mechanically. She saw the specially selected bottle of Burgundy placed in the service kitchen, the one that would be at her station. She practiced holding a tray, her hands trembling. She thought of Isabella's face, a woman she didn't know, being publicly ruined. She thought of her own mother back in Sao Paulo, who had scrubbed floors so Anna could go to school. "You have hands," her mother had said, "but you also have a heart. Never let one work without the other." The night before the gala, while cleaning Marcus's private study, a task usually reserved for times he was away, Anna's vacuum cleaner caught the edge of a loose floorboard near the giant oak desk. A panel shifted. Driven by a dread she couldn't name, she got on her knees and pried it up. Inside was not a hidden safe, but something more mundane and more damning. A slim, encrypted laptop, and beneath it, a folder of printed documents. The top sheet was a bank transfer record. The amount was $5 million. The recipient was a shell company she vaguely recognized from the news. The memo line, handwritten, read, "Final settlement Vance," her agreed silence. It wasn't the offshore account information that froze her blood. It was the sticky note attached to the next page, in Marcus's distinctive scrawl. It listed a date, a time, and a name, Anna Silva, and beside it 2 words, "Ensure compliance." Ensure compliance. Those 2 words in his own handwriting turned the bonus from a bribe into a blueprint. It meant the plan wasn't just about humiliation. It was a calibrated move in a larger, darker game, and her role was prescripted. Anna's hands shook as she carefully lifted the folder. She didn't understand half of the financial jargon, references to blind trusts in the Cayman Islands, wire transfers to numbered accounts in Luxembourg. But the names she did recognize were like ice water down her spine. One document was a private investigator's report on Isabella, detailing her new charitable projects, her friends, her schedule. Another was a legal memo outlining ways to void the original divorce settlement if Isabella could be proven mentally unstable or guilty of public defamation. The most chilling page was a list. It had 5 names on it, all women. Isabella was at the top. The 4th name was Chloe, his current girlfriend. The 5th was blank. Next to each name were dates, amounts of money, and one-word codes: silenced, controlled, pending. Anna's breath hitched. She wasn't just looking at a rich man's petty revenge. She was looking at a system, a methodical, financial, and psychological operation to dominate and dismantle anyone who crossed him. She heard a noise in the hallway, the distant chime of the elevator. Panic seized her. She shoved the documents back, replaced the floorboard, and was vacuuming the far side of the room when Marcus's personal assistant, a severe woman named Lorraine, walked in. "Anna, Mr. Thorne wants the study flawless for a call with Tokyo tonight. And remember, the gala is tomorrow. Be at the service entrance at 5 p.m. sharp. The uniform will be provided. Do not be late." Her tone left no room for doubt. The machine was in motion. That night in her tiny, shared apartment in Queens, Anna didn't sleep. The documents burned in her mind. The $20,000 felt like blood money now. The green card promise felt like a chain. She thought about simply not showing up, but ensure compliance suggested consequences. He had a file on her too. He knew where she lived. He knew her status. If she ran, he could have her flagged, detained, deported with a single call to the right security consultant. The gala arrived. The Harmony Foundation event was held in the ballroom of a historic hotel, a cavernous space dripping with crystal and gold leaf. Anna, along with 24 other temporary staff, was issued a stark black and white maid's uniform, cinched at the waist, stiff, and designed to signify servitude. As she tied the apron, her fingers fumbled. The specially selected bottle of red wine was already at her assigned service station, table 7, Marcus's table. She saw him across the room, holding court in a tailored tuxedo, laughing with senators and tech CEOs. He looked like a king. At the adjacent table, table 6, sat Isabella. She wore a simple, elegant silver gown. She was talking animatedly, her smile not touching the tiredness in her eyes. Anna felt a surge of pity, followed by a crushing wave of fear. The dinner progressed through courses. Anna moved like an automaton, clearing plates, refilling water glasses, her heart hammering against her ribs. She caught Marcus glancing at her once, a quick, piercing look that was both a reminder and a threat. The dessert course was announced, chocolate torta with gold leaf. This was the moment. As the desserts were being served, Anna's station manager tapped her shoulder and nodded pointedly at the bottle of Burgundy on her tray. Table 6. "The lady in silver needs a refill now." This was the deviation. The plan was for her to approach Isabella, not just pass by. Anna's tray felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She picked up the bottle. The room seemed to narrow to a tunnel, the murmur of laughter and clinking silverware fading into a dull roar. She took one step, then another, weaving between the tables. She was 10 feet from Isabella, 5 feet. Marcus was watching, his expression one of cold anticipation. Isabella turned, sensing her approach, and offered a polite, absent smile, holding out her empty glass. Anna stopped. She looked from the glass to Isabella's face to Marcus's expectant gaze. Every instinct screamed to obey, to survive, to play the clumsy servant, take the money, and hope for the green card. But then she saw it again in her mind, the list, the words silenced, the 5th blank line waiting for a name, maybe hers. Instead of tilting the bottle over the glass, Anna set the entire bottle down on the white linen tablecloth with a soft asterisk thud asterisk. The action was so deliberate, so contrary to her role, that Isabella's smile faded into confusion. A few people at the table paused their conversations. Anna took a shallow breath, her voice barely a whisper, but in the lull of the music it carried. "Ms. Vance," she said, "he paid me $20,000 to spill this on you. He has documents hidden in his study, a transfer for $5 million to a shell company with your name on it, and a list. There's a list of names." The silence that followed was absolute. Isabella's face went pale. At table 7, Marcus's smile vanished. He stood up so quickly his chair screeched on the marble floor. "This woman is clearly unwell," he announced, his voice booming with forced calm. "Security, please escort her out. She's harassing a guest." But Isabella was faster. She stood, placing a hand on Anna's trembling arm. "Wait," Isabella said, her voice clear and commanding, cutting through the tension. She looked at Anna, then at Marcus, her eyes narrowing with dawning, furious understanding. "What list?" she asked Anna, ignoring Marcus completely. Anna, emboldened by Isabella's protection, spoke louder now, her accent giving the words a raw, undeniable truth. "A list of women, your name is first. His girlfriend Chloe is fourth. There are codes next to them, silenced, controlled." She looked directly at Marcus, whose expression had shifted from anger to something colder, more dangerous. "The 5th line is blank, Mr. Thorne. Were you saving it for me after I did your dirty work?" A collective gasp rippled through the immediate tables. Phones, which had been discreetly recording the opulent evening, were now openly lifted. Marcus's facade cracked. "This is slander from a disgruntled employee," he snapped, but the panic in his eyes was unmistakable. He took a step toward them, but was blocked by Isabella's friends, who had now risen to form a protective circle. In the chaos, Anna saw Lorraine, Marcus's assistant, whispering frantically into her phone, her eyes wide with panic. The event security hovered, unsure who to apprehend. The social bomb had detonated. The video was already leaking online. Billionaire's Maid exposes blackmail plot at charity gala. Isabella guided Anna away from the table toward a private anteroom. Once the heavy door shut, muffling the scandalized buzz of the ballroom, Isabella turned to her. "Tell me everything from the beginning." And Anna did. She described the hidden floorboard, the encrypted laptop, the folder, the bank transfer memo that read "Final Settlement Vance," her agreed silence. Isabella listened, her face growing stonier with each detail. When Anna finished, Isabella let out a slow, shuddering breath. "The 5 million, she said quietly. "That was the hush money clause my lawyers missed. The clause that said if I ever spoke publicly about the hidden assets I found, I'd have to repay it. He wasn't trying to humiliate me tonight, Anna. He was trying to trigger the clause. A public scene I caused, captured on video, would have been his proof of defamation. He would have taken back the 5 million and sued me for more." She looked at Anna with a mixture of awe and horror. "You didn't just refuse him, you just stopped him from legally destroying me." Before Anna could process this, the door burst open. It wasn't security. It was 2 men in dark suits, their demeanor screaming private protection, not hotel staff. They were Marcus's personal security detail. "Ms. Silver," the lead one said, his voice devoid of emotion. "Mr. Thorne requires a word, immediately." Isabella stepped forward. "She's not going anywhere with you." The security man didn't flinch. "Ma'am, this is an internal employment matter. Step aside." As he reached for Anna's arm, the door to the main ballroom flew open again. This time, it was a woman Anna didn't recognize, flanked by a man with a press badge. The woman spoke with rapid-fire authority. "Anna Silver, I'm Priya Sharma with Financial Watchdog. We just received an anonymous tip with scanned documents matching your description. We need to speak with you right now for your safety." She glanced at Marcus's security. "I suggest you gentlemen leave. The district attorney's office is already on their way. This is no longer an employment matter." Hotel service elevator descended like a descent into a new world. Anna was no longer an employee or even a whistleblower. She was now evidence. Priya Sharma from Financial Watchdog hustled her through the buzzing kitchen, past confused cooks, and out into a waiting car. "Head to the safe house address I gave you," Priya instructed the driver. She turned to Anna, her expression serious. "The tip we got included 5 scan pages, the bank transfer, the list, the investigator's report. It's enough to get subpoenas. Who sent it to us?" Anna could only shake her head, bewildered. She hadn't sent anything. She'd barely had time to process what she saw, let alone scan and leak it. That meant someone else in Marcus's orbit had access to that hiding place and had decided to burn it all down. Lorraine, the assistant, a rival. The thought was as frightening as it was freeing. She wasn't alone. The safe house was a modest apartment in a secure building, belonging to one of Priya's colleagues. For the next 48 hours, Anna recounted every detail to a rotating team of forensic accountants and lawyers Isabella had assembled. The story that emerged was uglier than a simple divorce dispute. The $5 million transfer wasn't just hush money. It was a single thread in a web of concealed assets totaling nearly 80 million, money that, by the terms of the original settlement, rightfully belonged to Isabella. Marcus hadn't just hidden it. He'd funneled it through a series of shell companies that ultimately funded Ether Systems' most controversial project, a social media monitoring tool called Sentry. Sentry was marketed to corporations as a brand protection suite. Its internal documentation, which the legal team now obtained, revealed its true purpose. It was a mass surveillance tool designed to identify and neutralize reputation threats, journalists, activists, ex-employees, and as one memo put it, personal liabilities. The list of women in Marcus's floorboard wasn't a personal hit list. It was a client portfolio. He was using Sentry and the financial power it generated to systematically track and control the women in his life. But here where it gets worse. As they traced the money, they found a second stream. Millions were being siphoned from these hidden accounts not just to fund Sentry, but to make discreet, quarterly payments to 3 city building inspectors and a member of the zoning board. The connection: all four officials had recently fast-tracked permits and overlooked violations for a new luxury condominium development in a historically protected neighborhood. A development owned by a shell company that traced back to Marcus. He wasn't just a manipulative ex-husband. He was using his tech empire to enable corporate espionage and his illicit divorce funds to grease the wheels of urban corruption. The scandal was exploding from the society pages to the front page of the business section. Ether Systems CEO under multifaceted investigation, the headlines blared. Marcus, however, was not idle. His response was a masterclass in ruthless damage control. Within 24 hours of the gala, he held a press conference. He stood alone at a podium, projecting wounded indignation. He admitted to the hidden assets, framing it as a complex but legal asset protection strategy his wife's lawyers had failed to understand. He dismissed the list of women as a gross misinterpretation of a client prospect list for a women's leadership charity he claimed to be developing. He painted Anna as a fantasist, an unstable employee caught stealing petty cash, who had concocted a wild story for extortion. He announced he was filing a defamation lawsuit against her and against Financial Watchdog. Then he played his trump card. His legal team filed an emergency motion with the immigration court. They presented Anna's employment file, highlighting a single, allegedly missed shift from 6 months prior as evidence of fraudulent employment. They argued her entire work history was a sham to maintain her visa and requested her immediate detention and deportation for immigration fraud. It was a nuclear option designed not to win in court, but to terrorize. An ICE hold would mean Anna could be picked up at any moment, separated from her legal team, and put in a detention center where her testimony would be much harder to access. The pressure was now immense and personal. Anna sat in the safe house, watching the news cycle spin between her grainy photo and Marcus's polished lies. The defamation suit meant she could lose everything if she couldn't prove her claims. The immigration threat was a sword hanging directly over her head. Priya and Isabella's team worked around the clock, but they were building a case. Marcus was trying to erase the witness. Then the second anonymous package arrived. This one didn't go to the press. It was delivered by a masked courier directly to Isabella's lawyer. It contained a USB drive. On it was a video file. The timestamp was from 3 days before the gala. The camera angle was from a high corner of Marcus's study, a security camera he himself had installed. It showed Marcus and Lorraine reviewing a document. His voice was crystal clear. The silver woman is the perfect vector. Poor foreign compliant. After the wine incident, we leak her name to the gossip sites as the clumsy help. Isabella's humiliation will be complete, and we trigger the clawback clause. Then we begin phase 2, having Silva's visa revoked. A deported witness can't testify about documents she never really saw. On the video, Lorraine nodded, and the 5th line on the portfolio list. Marcus smiled, a chilling, empty expression. Leave it blank for now. It's a placeholder for the next liability that needs managing. The video ended. It was incontrovertible. It confirmed every element of Anna's story, revealed the immigration threat was premeditated, and exposed Marcus and Lorraine as conspirators. It was also a trap. Whoever leaked it had access to Marcus's most private surveillance system. This was an inside job of spectacular betrayal. With this video in hand, Isabella's legal team went on the offensive. They filed a criminal complaint for extortion, witness intimidation, and conspiracy. They presented the evidence to the district attorney and, crucially, to Homeland Security investigations, short-circuiting the immigration fraud narrative by showing the visa threat was part of a criminal act. The story went supernova. Billionaire plotted Maid's deportation in secret tape, the headlines screamed. Ether Systems stock began a freefall. Board members resigned. Federal agents raided the company's headquarters, seizing servers related to the Sentry project. The city launched an investigation into the building permits. Marcus Thorne Fortress was crumbling, but a cornered animal is at its most dangerous. His final move was not a legal filing or a press statement. It was a direct, physical threat. Anna, despite the safe house, had to attend a mandatory deposition. As she was leaving the lawyer's office, a black sedan pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. It was Lorraine. Her face was drawn, her eyes hollow with fear. "He knows it was me," she whispered, her voice frantic. "He knows I sent the video. He's frozen my accounts. He has people everywhere. You have the documents, you have the tape. You have to finish this, because if you don't, he's going to blame Chloe. And what he's planning for her, it's not financial." She shoved a folded note into Anna's hand before the car sped away. Anna unfolded the note. It was an address in the Hamptons, and a time, tomorrow midnight. Scribbled beneath were 3 words: "Bring the reporters." The blank line on the list was about to be filled. The escalation was no longer about the past. It was about preventing the next crime. Midnight at the Hamptons address was not a quiet affair of sea breezes and Millionaire's peace. It was the endgame. Anna didn't go alone. Priya Sharma and 2 investigative journalists were in one car. In another, unmarked and parked a mile down the secluded road, were federal agents from Homeland Security Investigations, alerted by Isabella's legal team. They had the video, the financial trails, and now a specific, imminent threat. All they needed was the scene. The address led to a modernist glass house perched on a dune, owned by one of Marcus's shell companies. The lights were on, blazing against the dark ocean. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, they saw a scene unfolding in the living room. Marcus Thorne, without his suit jacket, sleeves rolled up, was standing over Chloe, who was backed against a glass wall, her face streaked with tears. He wasn't touching her. He was holding a tablet, speaking with calm, terrifying intensity. Anna, watching from the edge of the property with Priya and a reporter with a long-lens camera, felt her blood run cold. They were too far to hear, but the body language was a textbook of coercion. Chloe was shaking her head, hugging herself. Marcus gestured at the tablet, then at her, his expression one of final offer. This was the not-financial plan Lorraine had warned about. The agents, monitoring the live feed from the camera, moved. They didn't knock. They used a key code obtained from the property manager, a code Marcus had given to Lorraine for emergencies. The front door slid open silently. Marcus's head snapped up. The tableau froze. Chloe saw the agents and let out a sob of relief, sliding down the wall. Marcus's face went through a rapid transformation, shock, fury, and then a mask of composed indignation. "What is the meaning of this? This is a private residence. You are trespassing." Lead agent, a woman named Chen, didn't blink. "Marcus Thorne, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit extortion, witness intimidation, and interstate threats." As she read him his rights, another agent gently guided Chloe away. On the glass coffee table, the tablet was still illuminated. On its screen was a draft prenuptial agreement, with clauses so punitive they effectively left Chloe with nothing, and a recording app that had been actively running. He wasn't just threatening her. He was trying to force her signature under duress and recording her agreement to use against her later. As he was handcuffed, Marcus locked eyes with Anna, who had stepped into the doorway. The hatred in his gaze was pure and undiluted. He said nothing to her, but the message was clear. He believed she was the root of this collapse. The billionaire who controlled everything was led out in handcuffs, past the flashing cameras of the reporters, his empire crumbling around him. The dominoes fell fast after that. The following morning, the CEO of Ether Systems resigned. The board suspended all operations of the Sentry project and initiated an independent audit. The company's stock, which had already plummeted, was delisted. Within a week, Marcus was hit with a cascade of charges: federal charges for wire fraud and conspiracy, state charges for extortion and coercion, and city charges for bribery related to the building permits. His assets were frozen. The penthouse was seized. In exchange for full immunity, Lorraine provided the key to the encrypted laptop from the floorboard. It contained the complete, unredacted client list for Sentry, which included not just the women in Marcus's life, but several politicians and corporate rivals. The scandal widened, ensnaring a congressman and 2 tech executives in a separate surveillance-for-hire scandal. Marcus Thorne's personal vendetta had inadvertently blown the lid off a much larger, darker industry. For Anna, the immediate threat was over. The immigration court, presented with evidence that her visa jeopardy was a fabricated part of a criminal scheme, not only dismissed the fraud allegation, but granted her a U visa, a special visa for victims of crime who assist law enforcement. It provided a path to permanent residency. She was safe. Isabella Vance, using the recovered $80 million from the hidden assets, did something extraordinary. She didn't just keep it. She used a portion to establish the Dignity Fund, a non-profit legal defense and advocacy organization for domestic workers and victims of financial coercion. The first board member she appointed was Anna Silva. The fund's first major initiative was to lobby for a state domestic worker bill of rights, providing basic labor protections to a historically excluded workforce. Chloe, freed from Marcus's grip, gave a series of interviews about the psychological control he exerted, becoming a vocal advocate for reforming coercive control laws. She and Isabella, once strangers linked only by Marcus, formed an unexpected alliance, supporting other women emerging from the shadow of his portfolio. The final surprising detail emerged not in a courtroom, but in a quiet meeting months later. Anna, now working with the Dignity Fund, was reviewing a grant application. She received a package with no return address. Inside was a simple, cheap mobile phone. It powered on to reveal a single text message thread. The messages were between two anonymous numbers. One read, "The maid has courage, but she needs proof. The floorboard, send the scans, burn it down." The reply a day later, "Done, he never protected the feed. The video is next, for my sister." Anna showed the phone to Priya, who had a forensic tech trace the numbers. They led to a dead end, of course, burners, but the tech found a metadata artifact, a tiny, embedded logo in a file from the second phone. It was the symbol of a small, elite hacker collective known for targeting predatory corporations. Their motto, "We protect the unshielded." The team dug deeper. They found an old, buried news story from 5 years prior. A talented young software engineer at a startup had died by suicide after being relentlessly bullied and financially ruined by a rival company's founder. The founder's name was Marcus Thorne. The engineer, surviving sister, was a cybersecurity expert. She had never come forward. She had simply waited, inside his systems, for the right moment to hand the keys to his destruction to the one person brave enough to use them. The maid he viewed as a tool. Anna had never been alone. Her act of defiance had been the spark, but the tinder had been laid by another woman's silent, years-long grief. Justice, when it came, was a chorus, not a solo. The criminal trials took 2 years. Marcus Thorne, facing the totality of the evidence, the financial records, the video, the testimony of Lorraine, Chloe, Isabella, and Anna, cut a deal. He pleaded guilty to reduced charges of fraud, conspiracy, and coercion. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, ordered to pay millions in fines and restitution, and his remaining assets were liquidated to settle civil suits. The once untouchable billionaire became a case number. On the day of his sentencing, Anna didn't attend. She was at the opening of a community center funded by the Dignity Fund in her old neighborhood in Queens. She stood at a podium, not in a maid's uniform, but in a simple suit. She looked out at a room full of domestic workers, cleaners, and caregivers. "They tell us we are invisible," she said. "They tell us our work is small, but we hold homes together. We see the truth of people. And sometimes, that truth is the most powerful thing in the world." The story that began with a refused glass of wine ended not with a single man's humiliation, but with the empowerment of thousands. The system designed to control and silence had been shattered by the very vulnerability it sought to exploit. The blank line on the list was never filled. So what does the story of Anna Silva and Marcus Thorne truly teach us? It's not a simple tale of good versus evil or the little guy winning. It's a blueprint of how power actually works in our world, not as a monolith, but as a fragile architecture of perception, secrecy, and fear. Marcus built his fortress on the assumption that some people are merely tools, their dignity negotiable, their silence guaranteed by their circumstance. He was right about the circumstance. He was catastrophically wrong about the dignity. We live in a society that often encourages us to see through people who serve us. The cleaner, the delivery driver, the caretaker, they become part of the background noise of our lives. We interact with the function, not the human being behind it. But this story reveals the fatal flaw in that view. The person you pay to be invisible sees everything. They see the real you, the unguarded moments, the cracks in the carefully curated facade. And within them lies not just observation, but a sovereign moral choice. Anna's refusal wasn't just brave, it was strategically devastating because it was rooted in truth. She didn't bring a weapon to a billionaire's party, she brought a mirror, and when she held it up, he didn't see a revolutionary or a rival. He saw his own reflection, a man so small he needed to break others to feel tall. That mirror didn't just show him, it showed the entire system that enabled him. The lax laws for domestic workers, the immigration policies that create vulnerability, the financial systems that hide theft in plain sight, and the social codes that treat humiliation as entertainment. The real victory here wasn't a prison sentence. It was a shift in the balance of narrative. For every Marcus Thorne who believes people are assets to manage, there is an Anna Silva who knows they are human beings to respect. For every system designed to exploit vulnerability, there is a hidden thread of solidarity waiting to be pulled. The hacker's sister, the betrayed assistant, the ex-wife with resources, they formed an unseen network that activated the moment one person said no out loud. Your vulnerability is not your weakness. It is your point of connection to everyone else the system has tried to isolate. So the next time you interact with someone in a role society deems invisible, pause. See the person, not just the function. Remember that they, like Anna, carry within them a world of experience, integrity, and quiet power. The health of our society isn't measured by the height of our skyscrapers, but by the dignity we afford to those who clean them. This is the lesson that echoes long after the headlines fade. No one is ever just a maid, just a billionaire, just a victim, or just a villain. We are all custodians of our own truth. And sometimes, the most profound revolutions begin not with a shout from the rooftops, but with a whisper across a starched white tablecloth. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone's dignity was challenged and seen the extraordinary courage it takes to defend it? Or have you, like Anna, found your voice in a moment you were supposed to be silent? Share your story in the comments below. If this documentary moved you, subscribe, because stories like these remind us that courage is contagious, and it's often found in the places we're taught not to look.